The US and Bangladesh have a very good relationship, but in the recent times there were some strains, especially following the sanctions imposed by the US government. Also, the US has been talking about free, fair elections in Bangladesh. The government was not very happy, and it was saying that it is a sort of, intervening in domestic politics and things like that. And US Assistant Secretary for South and Central Asia, Mr. Donald Lu, who has been quite reputed in this region, he was here in Dhaka. He had a lot of discussion with the government ministers and officials, and also civil society leaders. What were the discussions and how the relationship goes forward? We'll talk all about this with Mr. Donald Lu. Welcome to our show. Just last month, there was an incident in Dhaka, in Shaheen Bagh, around a meeting between Peter Harris and a group of people, and there was interruption, and you expressed concern in Washington as well as in Dhaka. What is the situation now? Did you talk to our officials, and what was the feedback?
Well, let me start by saying Peter Haas is one of my closest friends in the world. I have known Peter and his wife for more than 30 years, and I know that they are good people, and that Peter and his wife want the best for the people of Bangladesh. I also have to say, we take very seriously the security of your Bangladeshi diplomats and Ambassador Imran in the United States. We spend a lot of time making sure that they are safe and well taken care of. We expect the same treatment by the government of Bangladesh. I was given assurances from everyone we met today, including Home Minister, that they are very focused on the security of our team.
The US has been repeatedly talking about the free, fair and participatory election in Bangladesh, and ahead of next parliamentary election, you talked with the officials in Dhaka, and what is the latest situation? What was the response from our government when you talked about free elections?
Let me say that the main focus of my visit yesterday and today is to show that the United States is a reliable partner, and that we share the vision of Bangladeshi people for a stronger democracy, for more prosperity, and for stability in this important country. On the issue of democracy, Bangladesh is an important democracy in South Asia. Like all of us, Bangladesh has an imperfect democracy. And when I say imperfect, I think of my own country. We have had so many challenges and issues over the past year, and we're trying to be a better democracy. Bangladesh, I hope, will be working hard to make sure that as it moves towards elections, that they're focused on the ability for government and opposition to work peacefully together, to protect freedom of assembly so people can gather peacefully, but also freedom of speech. We, as Americans, will condemn violence where we see it, if it's on the part of opposition or on the part of government and security forces. At the same time, we're going to focus on whether there's intimidation during these elections. And if either side attempts to intimidate the voters or the leaders, we will say so publicly. I think it's important as democracies that we are providing that sort of feedback and really encouraging each other to be better democracies. I have every confidence that Bangladesh will be able to rise to the occasion and to have a good election, provided that there's focus on the areas that Bangladesh really needs to improve upon.
Bangladesh and USA have a very good relationship, but recently, in 2001, following this US sanction, there was a little bit of strain, and Bangladesh government was, worried and repeatedly requested you to withdraw it. And today you said, the RAB is doing very well, much better than before. So when is the sanction going to be lifted?
I want to say this very clearly. We have seen over the last year a dramatic reduction in the number of extrajudicial killings and the reports of allegations of those killings by the RAB. This is extraordinary, right? If you go back a few years, there were lots of allegations of enforced disappearances and encounter killings by this police unit, and we have seen a dramatic reduction. This fact has been confirmed this week by Human Rights Watch. This is something that should be celebrated in Bangladesh because it shows that the RAB can fulfill its important counterterrorism and law enforcement function also while respecting human rights. Okay. The last thing I would say about the RAB is that there was a killing in November. On November 10th, a person by the name of Shaheen Mian was killed in an encounter with the RAB. Immediately, the government, the courts, have appointed a magistrate to investigate this incident. And I have talked to people who've seen the report that she put together. She interviewed lots of witnesses and did quite a thorough investigation about whether there was anything improper in that. This is an important show that the RAB is going to be held accountable. That in fact you have structures to make sure that nothing inappropriate is being done. I encourage government to release the report on this case, but also future reports, because it shows that the government is doing the right thing. And it shows the RAB is in fact acting appropriately. This is a sign that the RAB can function in a way that all Bangladeshis should be proud of.
Bangladesh government was, concerned about future sanctions, and you think that there will be more sanctions from the USA?
I hope not. In fact, we have very robust relations between our two countries, and so one of the things I said to partners today is normally on the anniversary of a sanction like the sanction on the RAB, we would have designated more individuals from the RAB to face individual sanctions. We didn't do that. We didn't do that because we recognize the progress being made by government and by the RAB itself to reform. We would like to see more reforms, but we mean to encourage this process going forward, that they are an effective law enforcement unit, but without human rights violations. That would be success for Americans, but really success for Bangladeshis.
Recently, you have seen that one Russian ship carrying goods for a nuclear power plant in Bangladesh, the ship is being unloaded in India, not in Bangladesh. Why is that?
So let me broaden the question for a moment to say that the United States doesn't ask Bangladesh or anyone else to choose between Russia and the United States or China and the United States. We want to compete and show that we are a reliable and constructive partner for Bangladesh. We want Bangladeshis to see value in our relationship. This is important for us. This war in Ukraine has caused some very unfortunate consequences for Bangladeshis, for Americans, certainly for Ukrainians. We see high energy prices, we see high food prices. Our economies all over this region are suffering from inflation. So the international community has imposed some sanctions on Russia. Right. And the point of that is to prevent Vladimir Putin and his military from gaining more money and power for them to use in the war. It is not to punish Bangladeshi people. And so we have worked hard to try to stabilize global energy prices. The G7 has an oil price cap that has effectively kept prices of oil reduced. We have tried to have food be able to leave the port of Odessa and other Ukrainian ports so people are not going hungry, and the price of food has come down somewhat. And we are talking to the government of Bangladesh about how to minimize the effects of these sanctions on Bangladeshi people. Let me lastly turn to the ship. So I would just praise the Bangladeshi government for avoiding this issue of secondary sanctions. Nobody wants sanctions oriented at Moscow to suddenly maybe become a bilateral issue for us or cause problems for Bangladeshi business people who might take things off of ships that were under sanction. You mentioned India. I've had long discussions with our Indian partners about these very same issues. And we're working through that with India, just as we're working through it with Bangladesh.
Bangladesh has been saying that, when foreign diplomats speak about Bangladesh's elections, politics, so the government is a little bit, angry, and they say that it's a violation of Vienna Convention. How do you respond to this?
So I have been in government service for 33 years. All throughout, wherever I have served, as well as all the places America has representation, we are the same. We encourage our partners all around the world to live up to their democratic values. We have encouraged them to follow their constitution. That's just what it means to be an American diplomat. It's not something specific to Bangladesh or even South Asia. We do this everywhere. I think it's fundamentally because we believe that our partnership is stronger when your democracy is stronger, when people have the right for free speech and freedom of assembly. And so we promote these values. I believe this is what Bangladesh wants as well, that its people are very much hoping that it will develop as a democracy. It's not easy. I know this is a young country. We Americans have our own problems of democracy, but I'm proud that our two countries can talk about these issues openly, that we talk about human rights, we talk about democracy. For my country, I know we are imperfect and that we need a lot of help from our partners to become a better democracy. I hope that Bangladesh will also welcome the support and advice of its partner, the United States.
And as you talked about, the freedom of press, and I'm sure you had the same sort of talks during your meeting with the Law Minister and Home Minister. So what is the latest situation? What was your suggestion and what was the feedback from the Bangladesh officials?
We had very rich discussions about issues facing the Home Ministry, terrorism, law enforcement challenges. With the Law Minister, we talked about the labor law and how we could work together to improve this. We talked about Digital Security Act and ideas about how that might be amended to promote free speech and not be used to target journalists. What I saw was a genuine desire to engage the United States. I was very pleased by the openness of your government officials as they talked about the challenges that their government is facing. We face many of the same problems: extremism, law enforcement challenges. In my country, we've had terrible problems with violence by police against civilians. And we talked about, are there ways that we can cooperate in addressing these challenges together?
You, of course, talked about the labor rights and EPZ law, trade union registration, and all these. And I think this is also tied to GSP facility as well as DFC funding.
So you know all these details.
What is the latest situation, and how are you going to, manage this issue in the future?
So what we talked about specifically was to make sure that we, the United States, are working as constructive partners, that we're using our technical assistance, our assistance programs to help to support better laws, but also better application of those laws, specifically looking at registration of labor unions. There was a lot of openness on the Bangladeshi side for our participation, and I think we all understand if we can get to a better place, there's so much in terms of benefits to the Bangladeshi economy. One, as a country that exports to the world, your reputation will increase as a country that really values labor rights. Two, as you said, it can open the door to new financing from the United States through the Development Finance Corporation. And third, our process for GSP before was suspended because of labor rights issues. Once we reopen GSP in the United States, we'll need to show progress on labor rights so Bangladesh can take advantage of this really important program.
You met our Prime Minister's advisor on private sector investment, and so investment is a huge issue that really Bangladesh wants you to come here with more FDI. So how do you actually are imagining to bring your FDI here?
So we have a secret weapon, and his name is Peter Haas. Peter is one of our leading experts in the diplomatic service on economic issues, on trade, and on investment. He was our acting assistant secretary of our economic bureau at the State Department. He has had 30 years of promoting trade and investment and economic engagement, we are very excited that he is here as our ambassador, and I know he will bring more attention to the economic side of our relationship.
With this, we thank you, and it's a pleasure
Oh,
to
thank you
have
for
here.
having me on your program.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so much.